Hey everybody, it's Chris Lipper from On the Bus Sales Training, Coaching, and Consulting, and we are going to do a class today on networking versus not working, and it's chapter 1 in my book, and it's a talk I've given many times, and we'll see how it goes here. So networking versus not working, and this talk works with COVID and live either way, so pandemic or non-pandemic, it should all translate very well. And I used to title it The Do's and Don'ts of Successful Networking, but we moved on to networking versus not working. And I think 2014 when I gave this the first time. So the question is, are you a professional or are you winging it? And you need to think about that. So are you just showing up at events and kind of winging it, or are you a professional? And there's no right or wrong answer. We all have our own style, but it's just something you need to ask yourself. And I know who's here. Normally I'd say who here networks currently, and I know that you guys do, so we don't need to propose that question. And I would ask who here is planning on networking, and I know that you guys are because you've seen the results of networking. Why are you going to network? And the answer is because it's cheap, frankly, and it just takes time and guts, and it beats the alternatives, at least in my opinion. So what do you think of networking? And this is interactive, so if you want to ask a question or give feedback or whatever, feel free. But what do you think of networking? Is it intimidating to walk into a room of a couple hundred people, or even to go into a Zoom room of 100 people? Is that intimidating for you, or are you guys okay with it? You guys can nod unless you want to say something, but are you okay with it, or is it a little intimidating? For me, it can be a little intimidating, even at my ripe age and experience. I don't like walking into full rooms. It's and the trick to that is to go early and become part of the group and let it grow on you. But we'll get into all that in a little bit. Does anybody here think networking doesn't work? Right, so we can all agree that networking works pretty well. Who here thinks that the events they go to are no good? We blame the events instead of us. Okay, good. So we're all on the page of it's not the event's fault. Who here knows what their networking objective is? Do you have a networking goal for yourself when you go to an event? And I can tell you I do, but we'll share that. And my goal is to have 2 one-to-ones, more than I would get just by showing up. So I give myself a goal. Anybody here given up on networking altogether or afraid to start? Okay, good. All right. Networking works just fine, digitally or otherwise. It just may not be working for you. And hopefully today we're going to figure out why and what we can do. And because I've learned to network, I no longer have to advertise or cold call or do any of those things. And just network smart. Things that can turn networking into not working. I'll give you some examples of this. And we're all guilty of it. I'm not above it either. So let's say we're going to some 7 a.m. event, and what do? We end up hanging out with the people we know because it's comfortable. So we go over and we I used to share offices with people. I'd go hang out with the people that I'm sharing an office with. Why do I have to go to a 7 a.m. event to talk about the Giants or the Rangers or whatever? I should be talking to the people I don't know, not the people I do know, right? So that was always a mistake. Showing up late is another big one. Then you're walking into the full room, and at many events, you've missed the networking opportunity. Now they're seating you at a table, and you're at your table. You can't be with that person across the room because now you've missed that chance for the open networking. So try not to be late. Not having cards or a way of sharing contact information. So you see that I have my QR code here. If you hold your camera up on that, it will populate your phone with my information, which you can save. And it has a ton of information in there. It's not just name, rank, and serial number. It's my website, it's my YouTube web page, it's all kinds of things. I think there's 10 different ways of reaching me. There's a lot of information on there, but have a way of passing on your information. Another favorite of mine is the chat area. And you don't want to be the first to put your information in the chat. What I've found is you want to be one of the later ones to put your information in the chat so the people that come on late will still be able to see it. But that should be something where you can copy and paste. Those of you that are Apple users, maybe it's a shortcut where you type SIG for signature or something that you don't use a lot, and it'll populate for you, or just put it in your notes and copy and paste and put it in. I do it with little buses on each side. So there's something that brings their eyes because I'm on the bus. Um, Not having a system for your cards. So this is more live, but I once went to an event and I met somebody who was interesting. I think it was a speed networking event, so I'll give him a bit of a break. But he didn't have a system, and he handed me his card, and it was actually somebody else's card. And his name was John, and the card he gave me said Sue. So I knew something was up. Or there was maybe more than met the eye or something like that. But have a system for cards you receive versus cards that you're going to give. And I like wearing a blazer, a jacket of sorts, and in men's jackets, there's a pocket in that top left, and that's where I keep my cards and my badge, so that I'm ready for a networking event. It's just part of how I get dressed in the morning, you know? Speaking of badges, not having your own badge. Who goes to an event and you get one of those hello stickers, my name is, not really special. They always fall off, or they crinkle, or they're crooked, or they're not right. Get a badge made. It's 10, 20 bucks. Have a badge done. Get a QR code made. Do something that is going to make you comfortable in sharing your information. Be a professional. Don't wing it, right? Or you could have a sign made behind you in your background, or a virtual background, something where you're sharing your contact information for those that want it. Make sense? Good so far? Okay. All right. So not being prepared in general, walking in all discombobulated, coming into a Zoom room with your mic on and perhaps a TV in the background, or having a lot of notification noises, it's never a good look. It's never a good impression. Have some calmness around you, some still around you. Have something in your background that reflects you and your business. Be a professional. If you're going to walk in and, the cat walking across the screen once in a blue moon is cute and interesting and funny. But if it's happening constantly, or you got kids tugging at you, or your TV's on, or you've got a police scanner on, or something that's making noises, it's distracting from what you do. People aren't understanding your message. And they know it's you because you get this highlighted box around the speaker who's making the noise. So just be prepared when you come on to these things. And I believe it asks you, do you want your video on or not? And generally I set these up, because I host many of these, where it automatically mutes people, because I don't want them coming in blaring if somebody's talking. It's disruptive. Have a 2-minute intro prepared. Have a 30-second intro prepared. Know what the group is expecting. So if I'm invited to a group, I always say, sure, I'd love to go check it out. Tell me about it. Tell me the format. What do I need to do? And if they say nothing, it's just networking. You just stand around and talk to each other. Okay, I can do that. Or they say, well, you need to have a 1-minute intro, and there's a stopwatch, and they take it pretty seriously. I'll be prepared for that too. So know the lay of the land and know what you're walking into. Not having a networking system, that's a big one. Not having a follow-up system, that's a big one too. Why go if you're not going to follow up, right? It's, what do you think is going to happen? You're just going to walk in the door and show up, and all of a sudden people are going to put money in your pocket? It doesn't work like that. Wish it did. I'd go to more events. Evaluating events by sales success is a stickler for me. People that say, oh, I went, I didn't get any business. I don't know if that's a fair evaluation of the event. I think we can evaluate it by behavioral goals, right? So maybe we can say, Yeah, I went to the event, and all of a sudden I was able to get 4 one-to-ones, and they were all quality one-to-ones, and there was a lot of centers of influence there for me. That's a good one. Um, so that would be a good way to evaluate. Um, not having a networking goal, not having a reason in mind for being there, if that makes sense. How about this one? Not having accountability. You guys accountable to anyone? You know, that's the nice thing about having um, some people that you report to for accountability, maybe a board, maybe some other organization, or maybe it's your colleagues in the office. But tell someone, say, hey, I'm going to this event. I want you to hold me accountable to having at least 2 one-to-ones. That would be a good thing. It could be your spouse, could be a relative, could be an investor. I don't know. Could be an Excel sheet, but track it. Okay. Know that you're getting something out of these events. Here's another big one, not scheduling enough time after the event. So this works more live. So when we're back to being live and we go to that god awful 7 a.m. event and we're there for an hour and a half, it's 8:30 and it's supposed to wrap up on time, and they're probably going to run over because they do. And it ends at 8:45 and we've got a 9 o'clock appointment scheduled across town, but our ideal prospect is sitting right in front of us. And now we don't have time to meet with them. Shame on us. Schedule time after the event. I'll show you later what you can do with that time, but give yourself a buffer. Okay? It's part of being a professional. It's part of planning for success. Assume these things are going to work out. Okay? Don't assume you're just going to blow it off and run out the door. Again, why go if that's our attitude going into it? Don't be a one and done kind of person. So if you're a member of a chamber where they've got, let's say, 80, 100 meetings a year, and there's subcommittees, and I love when people get involved in subcommittees because we can really get to know people then. Maybe go to 2 events 12 times a year. Generally, these things are monthly. So if we go to 2 events 12 times a year, we're going to get to know people pretty well. If we're going to 12 events twice a year, we're not going to get to know people. So pick your subcommittee. David Quick, I see you're on here and you're in IT. So if they have a tech committee, that's a good one for you. Gordon, I see you're on here. If they have and you're in HR, if they have a health and wellness, that's a good one for you. Find committees that are around what you do, where centers of influence might be. That kind of stuff works out really well. But again, make it each month. So go pick your 1 or 2 and go 12 times a year and then evaluate. Don't just go to 12 of them twice a year. I don't think you're giving yourself a real shot. Please, whatever you do, and this is a pet peeve of mine, don't sell multiple products. Don't be the dog groomer who also does credit card processing. It waters down everything you do. Be a master of one. Be the expert at what you do. Be the best at what you do. You don't have a plan B that, oh, by the way. It just doesn't work so well. Any questions so far? Or are we good? You got to unmute yourself. I'm good?
No, so far it's great. Thank you.
All right, let's keep going. All right, what is networking? The essence of networking is building relationships to where you can ask for referrals. We want people who we network with to take their mental Rolodex of 1,000 people, let's say 2,000 people, and bring it down to 1 or 2 that they can introduce us to. Right? So we all know a couple thousand people. We need to explain who it is we want to be introduced to. Again, so we've got this big couple thousand mental Rolodex down to 1 or 2 they can introduce us to. And that's important. I want you to think of that. And I want you to think of my hands doing that funnel, because that's what we're doing. And that's how we have to describe who we want to be introduced to. Obviously, turning all those negative points mentioned into positive ones, bringing your own card, having your own badge, being on time, etc., are important. So if getting to an event and walking into a full room intimidates you, and it does me, and it doesn't just do it for me at networking, it does it when I go see music, whatever it is, I don't like walking into a room where everybody's already in their groups and paired up, if you know what I mean. So the key for me is to go early and become part of the group. So again, let's pick on that 7 a.m. event. So if there's a 7 a.m. event where they're going to start at 7:15 and there's 15 minutes of networking, I'll get there at 6:30 or 6:45 and help them set up and become a part of it, and what you'll learn is I also become a greeter of sorts, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Um, but find a way of having the event grow on you. And I do it when I go see music too, and I become almost part of the band. I film and set up equipment, and I'm there early when they're loading in and bringing their equipment in. So am I, and then I'm part of the team, and it makes it feel like I'm almost a host and part of it. It's just a way I've done things over the years. If I'm not early, I'm late, and sometimes I won't go. I don't like going to things late. Um, so let the room grow on you. So, what's the most important part of any trade show or networking event or any of these kinds of things? For me, the most important part is the follow up. So, it's the hour afterwards, the day afterwards, it's when we're going to follow up. Again, if we're not going to follow up, why do it? We're going to risk that they're going to follow up with us. I don't like that. And we're all guilty of it. I did it this morning, actually. Now that I think of it, there was a woman who was very interested in one of our classes, um, and she has my contact info. I didn't get hers. Shame on me. So now I'll have to go back to the host and say, hey, can you introduce me to? But there's my mental accountability. So, what's your follow up system for cards? And I'll tell you, here's mine, and it's evolved over the years, but um, so I would take the cards that I got at an event, and it was easier live because you had tangible cards. You would leave an event with, let's say, 10 cards, whatever it was. And there used to be a bunch of apps, and there's probably more apps now that do it, and some do it better than others. I'm using a CRM system, which sort of does it now, but it does it when you email them the first time. But um, there used to be Card Munch, there was World Card, there were a bunch of them that you could just take a picture of the card and it would 90% get right the information and put it in your contacts. But you could also invite them to join your drip marketing. So maybe you send out a follow up letter, something to the effect of, um, hey, it was great meeting you at the event this morning. And this can all be cut and paste. This can just be something that it automatically generates. You don't have to write it every time. But let me know if you'd like to get together discussing you and your business. I could tell you a little bit about me and mine. We could find out if we're fit for each other and maybe share a referral or two. If interested in meeting, there's a link below sharing my availability that is hopefully helpful. I look forward to meeting you. Who's going to say no to that? Right? They are there to network also. I'm asking to meet with them to learn about them and their business. Who wouldn't like that opportunity to share that with someone? Right? I'm not going to say, hey, let's get together and I'm going to come pitch you or sell you. That's not what we do anyway. Right? We're going to learn about them, find out if we're fit for each other, and see if we know anyone in common that we can introduce each other to. Isn't that what networking is about? Right? So when I meet with somebody and I see that they have 10 employees and maybe are having some HR problems, they're not hiring well, they're not keeping their employees, I know that's a good fit for Gordon. If I see that they have a bunch of machines that aren't on and they're collecting dust in the corner and they've almost got a graveyard of computers, I know that's a good fit for David. Right? So those are introductions that I would make. If I see they have one of those, what's it called, A&D machines, those things that shock you when you're having a heart attack, that's probably a good referral for Lisa and people like that. So, we got to scan the room. And when I network, I'm not networking for me, I'm networking for all of us. That again, I represent a community, but you can do the same. And that's part of it. And the way to get referrals is to give them. So what is your objective of networking? Right? So mine, and you need to think about that. Why are we networking? Do we have an objective? And hopefully yours is going to change today. But my objective is to set up one-to-ones where I can ask for referrals. And if I try to cut corners and do it in a different way, it doesn't work as well. Okay, sorry about the bells. Do you have a networking goal? Have you ever thought of that before? Do you have a goal when you go to an event? So if you're going to Vang, which can be small, it could be 12 people, it could be 25. Maybe a fair networking goal is to have a one-to-one, just one. And maybe it's a great event if you get two. But give yourself a goal. If you're going to a bigger event, maybe it's to get 3 or 4. If you're going to an event where they're going to match you up with someone for a one-to-one, add to it. Don't just be happy with what they give you, kind of thing. I want you doing more. All right. So, and what are the results of networking and who's holding you accountable? I want you to always think about that. Who's holding you accountable? All right. So we go into this twice a year with our cookbooking class, and we'll start talking about SMART goals. And SMART goals are strategic, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and trackable. So those are SMART goals. I'll repeat it: strategic, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and trackable. It can also be timeable, but I like trackable. I like to be able to track things and see how we're doing. I like it when we know and our employees know if we're having a good day or a bad day, and not based on emotions, but based on numbers. Did they make that extra call? Are they having their one-to-ones? Are they giving referrals as well as getting them? That kind of stuff. Or if you're growing, are you having interviews? Are you posting? It could also be if you're more of a fisherman, are you posting your Instagram bait or whatever it might be to bring the fish in, kind of thing. But you need to give yourself goals. We're not winging it, right? We're professionals. All right. So to turn a SMART goal, strategic, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and trackable, into a behavioral goal. So follow along here. This gets confusing. I'll go as slow as I can, but sometimes it just works better to fire it off. If I'm making 2 networking events every month, and I have 3 one-to-ones from each event, that's 6 one-to-ones per month. And even if I wimp out on a couple of them, that's 4 referrals I'm asking for in a month. 4 times 12 is 48. That's 48 referrals asked for in a year. Let's say that if half of them say yes, I know someone. And with our training, we teach you how to ask for a referral and what to do when you get it and what you ask them to do and all of that. These things work out really well. But let's say half of them say yes. That's 24 warm leads. How much easier is it to close a warm lead than a cold call? If a third of those warm leads say yes, that's 9 new clients in a year. Is it worth it to you to get 9 new clients and use a system like I'm explaining and having a networking system? So I don't know what you guys charge, but I know you're going to the events. So why not use a system and get 9 new clients a year just by networking? And imagine what you could do with the 9 new clients. The problem is we don't stick to our systems because nobody's holding us accountable. The accountability is key. And I am that guy for you. I will be that guy. So if you don't do it, maybe you're going to buy me lunch once a month or something like that. We'll figure it out. But I had one guy who say, you can pay my bar tab. You would get real easy with that with me. But 9 new clients, right? That sounds pretty good to me, just by sticking to having a networking system. A couple of pointers: coach people on how to give a referral. So if they say, yeah, I know someone, say, great, that's terrific. Who is it? My neighbor, Susie. Okay. Can you introduce me by email? So it just needs to flow. Ask to be introduced by email. Okay. And then you got to coach them on how. Say, yeah, just a quick email, put in the subject line, introduction, don't blind copy us. Just send an email to both of us saying, hey, Susie, I know you were struggling with your office with some HR issues. I met this guy, Gordon. I think you two should have a cup of coffee. And you're both copied here. That's it. That's all you want them to do. And then here's the thing that you can say: if you got guts, do you mind doing it now? You have your phone on you. Could you introduce me now? I don't want you to forget. It's real important to me. Let them do it. Gordon, you had a question?
Yeah, when you do the mutual introductions via email, should you make sure, should you take the time to speak with both of them individually and see if they'd be interested in the introduction, or do you just go and wing it and do it, or?
Absolutely not. Just do it. How would you want it handled to you? If I had a good lead for you, do you want me to call you and call them and get distracted and maybe forget, or do you want me to just do it on the spot? All right.
No, I agree. Yeah.
We treat people the way we want to be treated, right? Yeah, it's funny. My bank always asks me for all this information. I'm trying to make a deposit. And I always say to them, listen, if somebody wants to make a deposit in my account, don't hassle them. Let them make it. Yeah, I'm just trying to make a deposit. Why do I have to give you my social security number, this, that, whatever it is? If somebody wants to introduce business to you, great. I wouldn't make them jump through hoops. You just want the introduction, right? But coach the person making the referral on how to do it, because otherwise their answer is going to be, well, I'll probably see her tomorrow when I'm taking out the garbage or when I'm getting the mail, and I'll do it then. Are they going to remember? They might. Are they going to remember it's you and the contact information? That's a lot to ask of somebody. But I think if we have the guts to politely say, hey, this is really important to me and I'm really grateful. Do you mind doing it now? Why wouldn't they? We all have our phones on us, right? So I think it's just a matter of doing it. We give a class on this, on how to ask for referrals. Okay. And then when you get the one, here's a line. So now we're meeting with the referee. So Susie introduced us to whoever it was, or no, I guess it was somebody introduced us to their neighbor Susie, and then we've done that, the email exchange and all of that. And when you get the email, you can say, hey, David, thanks so much for the introduction. Hi, Susie, I'd love to sit down and meet with you. What time's good for you? You make it about them. You guys sit down virtually and have a virtual cup of coffee together, whatever it might be. And then here's your opening line. And if you don't do it this way, well, let me word that differently. This is why we went to the 7 a.m. event. This is why we got up at 5:30 in the morning to go to some god awful 7 a.m. event. We scheduled time afterwards. We blocked out, 3 hours for this thing. We went on the one-to-one. We asked for the referral. We had the guts to say, can you do it now? We did all of that so we can use this one line. And here's the line. Here's the magic line. And remember, we are creating buyers. We don't want to be sellers. And the magic line is, it was so nice of David to introduce us. Why do you think he wanted us to meet? And then shut up and let them close themselves. And let them tell you all the reasons they're going to be your next client. So it was so nice of David to introduce us. Can't thank him enough. Why do you think he wanted us to get together? Why do you think he wanted us to meet? Does that make sense? Okay. So if you take nothing away from this talk today, that's the magic bullet to all of this. And it's a system. It's having a networking system. It's being a professional. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, I lost my notes. There we go. All right. Do you have a networking system? If not, let's get one. All right. Here's mine when we were live, and I loved my networking system. So I would get to an event early. So let's use that 7 a.m. event. I'd show up at 6:45, 6:30. I'd help set up some chairs or do whatever's needed. I would find my spot. I would go get 2 cups of coffee and a glass of water and put it in my spot. So I had my seat. I like to sit with my back against a wall in a corner. We are in Jersey, kidding, not why. I want to be able to see the room. I want to be able to scan the room. Um, and I have a bit of a hearing issue where sounds around me, I hear everything and I'm going to hear it wherever I am. At least I can see where it's coming from. I want to know if it's at my table or a neighboring table. And again, we network with people we know, like, and trust. And if there's somebody really loud, I'm not going to like them. And so I want to know where the noise is coming from. So anyway, I would find my spot. I would place my stuff there. And then I would go to the door and well, I'd shake some hands along the way. I'd get the, hey, how are you? Is the, hey, hope you had a great weekend. Those Giants are great, or the Rangers are great, or whatever it is, and get that stuff out of the way. It's nice to see everyone, no doubt. Love the people that I network with, not why I'm there. Put my stuff down, then I go to the door and I became a greeter. I would say, hi, welcome to the event. What do you do? Or if it's an event where the people wear badges and new people might get a dot or something like that. And if somebody came in the room, and no offense to ink cartridge salesmen, and then somebody came in and said, oh, I'm with ink cartridge, we just opened a new store. I said, that's great. Coffee's over there. Hope you have plenty of cards and have a great morning. Now, somebody a little more interesting for me came in and said, oh, I'm an architect. I'd say, that's great. I'd love to meet with you. Do you have a card? I might be able to refer some business your way. They give me their card, say, hey, can I reach out to you for a one-to-one? Sure. I'm like, all right, I'm going to email you after the event. No problem. One down, one to go. All right, I've gotten my one-to-one, but it's because I'm greeting. And I would almost pull them along when I was shaking hands. Remember those days when we used to shake hands? All right, so that was mine, and you find yours, but find a way of being available, being a host, at some of our events. And Gordon, maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to be the guy who picks the speakers moving forward. Is that something you might want to do? That gives you a chance to meet the new people, right? So would you like that job in Vang? Okay, I
Yeah,
can.
sure.
Okay, so you're now that person.
Okay.
All right. So, and we'll talk later on how to do that. Um, maybe you can get David to speak soon, or he just did it, but we'll figure it out. All right. But are you a professional or are you winging it? Who's holding you accountable? How do you hold yourself accountable? And how do you give yourself a goal? We kind of went over all of that. What is your card system? I gave you mine. I told you how I do it, both where I keep mine in my breast pocket, but also what to do with the cards when I've received them. Another system I have from my old trade show days is I would write 1 through 5 on my cards, depending on determining the level of follow-up. So if I saw they had an AOL email address, they're probably not the best fit for me. They probably work from home, and I don't know, maybe they are a good fit. Depends on who you are. But if they're not using their domain as their email, yeah, and you can see that might be a 1 or a 2. If they are your ultimate client, that becomes a 5. So in the old days when I was doing trade shows all over the country, the 5s would be FedExes. They would get FedEx samples that day, that I got back. And that was the busy day, was the day after the event. So you develop your own system, just put a mark on the card 1 through 5. They don't need to know what it means. I used to put their disc profile also. So I knew how to interact with them if they were a D, I, S, or a C. Um, how do you know what a good event is? Do you know what you're looking for at an event? So I like the term. I like Goldilocks events. All right, so a Goldilocks event for me has a lot of owners of small companies, small to mid-size. Everybody's definition is different on small to mid-size, but if you can find me a place where owners of $10 million companies hang out that are maybe transitioning to a next generation, are growing faster than they can handle, or maybe aren't growing anymore, or have a lot of challenges and opportunities. Maybe they have 4 or 5 salespeople, but one's a rock star and the rest are okay. Those are great referrals for me. Those are people I want to meet with. That's a Goldilocks event. They're hard to find virtually, but it's not an excuse. There's LinkedIn, there's other ways. What's your Goldilocks event? You need to think that through and figure that out. Evaluate your event. How do you know what a good event is, right? All right, a lot of questions, and I hope by now that you have the feeling that you're no longer winging it and that you're going to be a professional moving forward. Any questions? We've got one more section to go. We're good so far? All right.
Yep.
One of my favorite parts is etiquette, networking etiquette. Okay. We need to be respectful of the event, of the venue, of the event, and of the people. So, of the venue, this is Zoom or otherwise, dress appropriately. So, don't wear a shirt that perhaps is distracting. Don't have your background be distracting. Don't be walking around. There's nothing worse than somebody who's on a Zoom call and they're walking around with their phone, and you're in their hallways, you're seeing their background, the lawnmower's going, there's dogs, but there's all kinds of stuff happening, right? Be a professional. Right? We can control these environments. It's part of being prepared. So just know your room and know what to expect. Listen, if you guys are sitting around on Zoom watching the Giants, that's a whole other thing. Do whatever you want. But for me, I like calmness and peace and tranquility kind of around me. I don't like a lot of stuff happening. All right. If the event has rules, follow them. Try to fit in more than stand out negatively. Be on time, be attentive, be engaging, and not controversial. So right now we probably shouldn't be bringing up politics and things like that, as people feel so strongly, as they should. If for some reason you're going to be late, just come in quietly, quickly and quietly. Don't feel the need to say hello to everyone. You missed that opportunity. You missed that chance. I was late for an event this morning, almost by design, knowing I was going to give this talk today. I had some kind of technical issue. And again, I went in quickly and quietly, and I just took my seat, and they were going around the room with introductions, and I happened to be the next one, maybe by design, maybe not. Gave my 30-second intro, and then they moved on to 2 other people, and that was a wrap. And then we went into breakout rooms, and I came in quickly and quietly. I was muted when I came in. It worked out fine. I didn't get to hear the other people's though, but I knew most of the room also. Most importantly, be respectful of other people. Networking works best when we like you. When someone is sharing their 2-minute intro or their 30-second intro or whatever it is, at least pretend to be paying attention. Treat people the way we want to be treated. If they want participation, join in. If they don't have their own thing going, let them go. Don't help them. Okay? And if they fall short, you can help them. If they're nervous, you can help them. Be that guy. That's memorable. That's likable. That's referable. But don't be a big shot and interrupt them and cut them off, and it's just rude. After the event, follow up appropriately. If you got the list of who attended, don't spam the list pretending that you've met with them. We can see right through that. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And please don't sell multiple products. All right. Normally right now in this talk, when it's live, I'd have people give their 2-minute intro. We're not going to do that here. We're going to save that for another day. So that's pretty much it. So a lot to think about, a lot to take in. But you can see there's a difference between just going to events and showing up and winging it and then rushing off to your next thing, as opposed to what we're discussing here. And I wish you all happy networking. It works. I'm Chris Lipper from On the Bus Sales Training.
Real quick, and I'm sorry, I know that you're not asking this, but here, what do you do when you meet with somebody and after just meeting with them for a few minutes, you're just not interested in them? I mean, just as a human, they might be a nice person, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to, there's so many other people that you'd rather,
Great question.
how do you get out of that gracefully?
You don't. You're forgetting why you're there. So that's a great question, but you got to remember why you're having the one-to-one with them. And the reason you're having the one-to-one with them isn't to necessarily sell them or meet them or become their best friend or whatever it might be. It's who they know and it's who you know. So remember, your objective of networking is to ask for a referral. It's not to ask for an order. So you don't know who they're married to. You don't know who their neighbors are. You don't know who their friends are. They could be a dream person for you. Find out. Another thing to do is before meeting with somebody, go to their LinkedIn page and see who they know. So when you ask them for a referral and they say, well, I really don't know anyone, say I understand, that's fine. But I did go to your LinkedIn page and I see you know Charlie Smith. How well do you know him? Do you know him well enough that you could introduce him to me? He's a perfect referral for me. Right. And then they could say, oh my God, I didn't even think of him. He's my neighbor, or I went to college with him. Yeah, that's easy. And then you use the line, do you mind doing it now? Can we pull out your phone? Okay, so there are no bad one-to-ones. That's on us if there is.
And we've discussed this before, but it's really, I think it's very important. I agree. When you ask a person why the person introduced you, you know, and you know, when you say, why do you think he wanted or she wanted us to meet? I think that's critical.
Yeah, and let them answer it. You know, it's so nice of David to introduce us. Why do you think he wanted us to meet? Let them close themselves. David, any takeaway for you or aha moment or something you're going to do
Yeah,
differently?
I was a bit challenged with getting the information about the contact information, being more aggressive, I guess, in the one-to-one chat and saying, you know, can I be on one-to-one, or just doing it right there, asking the person. Maybe just being a little bit more aggressive than I would normally be to get one-to-one and meet with the person.
So aggressive, yeah. Obnoxious, no. Yeah, you can still be polite and say, you know, I'd love to have a one-to-one with you. Could we get together sometime on Zoom and have a cup of coffee?
Yeah, I think that's where I've been lacking.
Okay, I don't know why people don't do more of that. We're in front of our screens all day. You know,
that's my problem continuously, Chris. Is, you know, I speak with a lot of these folks and network with them, but nobody is referring me to their clients. They're referring me to other people that don't get me wrong. I understand that there's never a bad referral, but you know, these are successful people that have clients. You're going to tell me none of them need HR help, you know?
Well, maybe that's a question you can ask politely. Say, of all the people that you work with, none of them could use some HR help.
Right.
None of them are losing employees because of whatever it is you could fix, you know, or none of them need help finding employees or need background checks or drug screenings or, you know, think of, yeah, you can politely ask more aggressively.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful.
Okay. And Gordon, it was good for you?
It was good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I'll see you all next time. Thank you.
All right, take it easy now.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.